I do there. Are we on now?
Yes.
Good, we're good to go.
Okay, so
Should we do committee introductions first?
I think so,
Yeah.
yes. I was going to get there.
Okay, sorry. You started on the dinner, so I wanted to make sure.
Well, yeah, we
Yeah.
have a lot to cover tonight because we have a big engagement meeting next week.
Yes.
And there's quite a few tasks that have to be claimed and so forth, but I think what we should do, because I don't remember half the names from last time, I do remember yours though. So we could just go around and do some brief introductions, maybe starting with you, Phil, since you're on that end.
So Philip Sakarowski from the planning board.
Carrie Denizio from school committee.
Danelle Murphy, business owner in town.
Great.
Andrew Flowers, Housing Partnership and the Finance Committee.
Dean Babis, Conservation Commission.
Meg Hunter, to Economic Development Commission.
Patrick Deschaines, Director of Community Development.
Judy Barrett, consultant.
Katie Turco-Abady, Planning Board.
Mike McGrath, Recreation.
Janet Fasanello, Council on Aging.
John Hassenjager, Water and Sewer.
Great. So at some point, I think my colleague Fiona might join us this evening to show you the other part of the engagement process that starts next week. But we can talk about the face-to-face meeting first. And when she joins us, she should be able to bring up kind of a picture for you of what the Miro board will look like. So I'll explain that in a minute. But the face-to-face meeting is Wednesday night, 7 to 9.
Yes.
Yes, and I believe childcare has been arranged.
Yes, so student council would like to know the specifics, just meaning the minimum number of bodies that you want
Yep.
from them and the time frame.
Okay.
And other than that, they're good.
Super. So we do have a release form that parents will need to sign, basically saying, you have my blessing to take care of my child for 2 hours, and also a release for any, like, if the kids are in a picture or something, parents can decide whether they want the kids' picture published anywhere. So we have that ready. I think that what we should do in the email blast that goes out is encourage people to register in advance. I don't know how easy it will be to say how many people we need on childcare unless we
Okay.
have a sense of who might use it. The reality is that you'll get walk-ins, but if we at least had some sense, it might be a good idea.
So when you say register, just to clarify, you mean just the people who need childcare?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Judy, just one quick question. I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt you, but Patrick, are you taking minutes on the meeting?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure we were.
Yeah.
I think we had said that, but it didn't.
gotcha.
So childcare, I believe, is all set. I think there's a food issue that's going to get discussed tonight. I
Yeah.
think. So there will be food available. We're going to get to the high school probably by 6 because there's a lot of setup involved. So I know one of the things Patrick may have circulated to all of you guys in the last day or two is just a list of jobs I know we're going to need people to volunteer to help with at the meeting, because the setup is pretty big. But essentially, what we're going to do is we have a series of maps that we've made that we're going to put up at different stations around the room, because we don't know when people come to these meetings what they know about their own town. You just would be amazed at what people don't know, especially if you're getting newcomers. So we'll have some maps up, we'll have a couple of boards with like questions on them that people can respond to with like a Post-it note, basically to mingle before the meeting starts. And that's when also people could get food.
Yep.
We do a presentation on kind of what's a master plan, we're kicking this off, what are we doing, why are we having this meeting tonight, what's visioning, what are planned goals, how do these things come together. And Daphne, my colleague, who will be kind of an instrumental part in this meeting, whom you've not met yet, will put up a big sheet of cloth somewhere in the room where we typically give people, when they come in and register, they sign in for the meeting, we give them 3 strips of paper, different colors. What do you love about Walpole? What's special? What would you like to see preserved? What would you like to see changed? And each one has a different color on it, because this makes it easy for us later to just grab the colors, that we need for the different questions. But they respond, and they put the piece of paper up on the sticky board. It just works really well. But it's giving people something to do while we're getting started. We do the presentation, we break people up into smaller discussion groups, which is one of the things that we most need help from this committee on, because we can't possibly staff them all, and you don't want us to anyway. You actually are the ones who are gonna know what more people are talking about. So we're gonna need like probably a half dozen volunteers from the committee, because we have no idea who's gonna show up. But essentially, they discuss the same questions at the different tables, and there's a discussion. Committee member will kind of lead the discussion, facilitate the discussion. Somebody should take notes. Typically, we tell the facilitators, ask someone at the table to help take notes, gives them something to do. At the conclusion of that, we ask the committee members who had that table to just take the notes home and type them up real quick and send them to us. And then the original sheets probably could just come back to Pat. But out of this process, this meeting, plus hi Katie, the Miro process that comes after it, we'll get enough input that we can come back to this committee when we meet with you again at the end of December and say, you know, here's what we heard for a vision statement, and here's what we heard as kind of broad goals for the plan, which, you know, we then would discuss with you, and you can, you know, certainly evaluate them yourselves and tell us whether you think we got it right or not. But that's kind of the first key piece of this process, is getting the overarching vision and some broad goals put together for the plan. Between that, after the meeting on Wednesday night, we will launch what's called the Miro board, and it's basically an online tool that when people click on this link, instead of going to a Zoom room, the image that comes up almost looks like you're walking into a room with a bunch of discussion centers. You know, there's a question on what is simulating a board, like a discussion board. Same questions we're going to ask at the meeting. So we're asking everybody the same thing. And they'll have a couple of days. It's an asynchronous, you know, setup. They can respond with their Post-it notes to the questions, and then, you know, we get this massive data, which is wonderful. And we can draw that from that as well. My hunch is you're going to get a very different group online versus the group that comes to the meeting. That's just what we always see.
The online questions that are going to the Miro board, that's before or during?
After the meeting. It's for
After,
people who,
okay.
people can do the Miro board who come to the meeting, but it's mainly for people who can't get to the meeting.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people who just can't get to a 7 o'clock at night meeting, which is why we do this. I know, it's hard. So it'll be interesting for you guys to see, here's input we had at the meeting, here's input that came in through the online mechanism. How are they similar and how are they different?
The Miro boards, are they entitled in accord with some of these issues like transportation, cultural, economic?
Not yet. We don't do topic questions at the first meeting. There will be questions at the breakout rooms that relate to topics, but the discussions, the breakout sessions will all be the same questions. This is really an overarching vision for the whole plan, not necessarily specific to each element, but there will be, that stuff is going to come up, but that's not the point of this meeting or the Miro board. It's what do people want to see.
I'd suggest that people don't usually, I've run many focus groups and research projects. People don't usually think in terms of the categories themselves. If you ask most people, they're going to talk about school and taxes and 3 or 4 topics. They're not going to think about transportation or senior citizens, or unless you somehow tweak them or give them an umbrella to think about.
That's not actually been our experience. When you're asking people, you know, what's working well in your town, if everybody agrees that the traffic is a nightmare, they're going to talk about transportation. You know, if everybody agrees that, you know, seniors need affordable housing, or that seniors need housing, if people think that, they're going to say it. It's remarkable what they don't need to have prompted.
Also, if I could just add, in my experience, it's kind of interesting when people aren't prompted in a carved out way, because you get answers that you would never have anticipated.
That's right.
So I think that just having it big and open is beneficial in some ways.
It's a townwide vision, so, you know, it isn't going to be, you know, topic specific. The next meeting we do, the one in March, that's gonna be a lot more topic oriented.
Do you explain that at the first meeting?
Oh, yeah,
So that people know the second meeting's not just a repeat?
oh, yeah, oh, yeah, no, we would do that.
Judy, I have two logistics questions. One is, for the mural board, is that like a link? And if so, when will that link be available? Because as I prepared to distribute the great flyer that I've seen up at the library and elsewhere,
Yep.
the great flyer that was sent out in Patrick's email, as I prepared to distribute that to my neighbors and friends and just acquaintances in Walpole, it would be good to have the Miro link too.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually not planning to release it till after the meeting. But,
Okay.
only because we don't want to frustrate you guys. What's probably going to happen is if people think they can do it online, they won't come to the meeting.
Got it. That makes
So
sense.
that's why we thought we would make that available right after the meeting.
That makes sense.
I mean, if you guys feel differently, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but that was the plan.
But how does that link and information get disseminated?
It's going to be another email blast right after the meeting.
So we're doing two waves of outreach. One is the flyer, hey, show up in person.
Yeah, which is-
And then
yeah.
we don't tell necessarily those same audience members that there's gonna be a follow-up for, hey, if you couldn't make it, here's this link to do the mural
We'll
board.
announce it at the meeting, and one of the boards that people see will have like a QR code or something on it for it, so we're not going to hide it from people. We just, you know, we're just trying to make sure people come to the meeting instead of just
Well, I think you also mentioned too, the mirror board's gonna be available for multiple days.
a couple of
Is
days.
this the 23rd? Is that what I saw?
It was on the,
18th to the
initial-
23rd, which is great.
She's in the waiting room for Zoom. I'm sorry, I
It's
didn't
the
mean to cut
18th,
you off.
21st. Is it the 23rd?
I just saw on this outlet, it says 18th
I
to
know
the
it's not on my
23rd,
computer.
but on this timeline.
I'm not, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
timeout. I think Patrick, maybe? We need to
Open
let
up
someone in.
the,
the Zoom.
Zoom meeting.
You need to open up the Zoom meeting. My colleague is in the waiting room.
Work the magic.
There we go.
So can you go over some of the logistics of the email blast? How many people we contacted, how many people we're expecting at this?
So right now, I've reached out to our recreation department as well as our council on aging.
From where? I'm sorry.
Okay.
From where?
So both those have pretty,
On mine?
yes.
How
Both
that's
those have
gonna
pretty
work.
large
I guess
email
we'll find
listings, so we're
out,
kind of
won't we?
going through that method. The same way, I mean, we're just gonna try to publicize as much as we can through our social media, our town website, and try to make that available and noticeable immediately after the meeting, to Judy's recommendation, and keep that link open, for as long as possible, so, or for 4
Pat,
days.
Can you add the recreation email list to that?
Yeah, so I did talk to Brandon about that as well, so, those are two pretty large email listings in town, so hopefully we can utilize that.
Do we have a website yet?
We got a page,
We
it's,
do. It's just on the,
it's
it's on the
sparse,
town
but yeah,
site?
it's on the town site at the moment.
Patrick, what was the first email list you were mentioning?
So last week I reached out to our recreation director and our council on aging director, both of which have large email listings. Just trying to hopefully go through that method of both advertising through the recreation department's social media page, but also if they could do an email blast for
Did
advertising.
you contact Dr. Goff's office about using the school department's?
I didn't.
email
That's a
list?
great idea, though.
Mary Mortale has
Mary
a
Mortale.
pretty substantial list, and it's not just limited to parents of.
Recording in progress.
schools. Anybody who's on that list?
I'll
talk to Mary, yeah, I was
talking
about her,
talking
to her
earlier
about this, so.
Which group sent out the East Street paving email?
So I believe that's the town government
Yeah.
email list.
We're not allowed to use that one?
Are we not allowed to use
Be
that?
able to, yeah.
And what about the trash one?
We should be able to.
I got,
Same way.
yeah, those are fantastic
Yeah,
email lists.
yeah, we'll probably
Sure.
utilize whatever we have.
And so, sorry to keep diving into the details here, Judy. My second logistics question was, for the actual in-person event, participating at the tables,
Yes.
for us, the members of this committee, what's your recommendation? Like, I could see it go either way. Should we just kind of hold back and let others participate? Because we can give our input in future meetings, or do you want us to kind of like model participation? I'll do whatever you tell me to.
So, those of you who are going to facilitate, Daphne will do a kind of a facilitator, quick training before the meeting, just to go over your role and responsibilities. Hey, Fiona. Hi.
Hi.
But
Hi, everyone.
Really, your job at this meeting is to make sure that your friends and neighbors get to talk. So it's not a time where you're gonna be necessarily telling people what you think. You can do that on Miro if you want, but your job is to make sure that people feel comfortable speaking, no matter what you think of what they're saying. You'd have to, encourage people to talk, and, if there's disagreement, then, you try to sort of find areas where people agree, if you can, and record disagreement, and I think you're not trying to get consensus. I should just say that, too. I mean, this is not about beating everybody into consensus. It's getting as many ideas as you can.
So should we pick who's gonna be there tonight, so we?
Well, I think we need to know who's going to.
And are we gonna do that, her, her directions, would that happen on Saturday before the meeting, or is that
We can email out a facilitator's guide. I think she may have already given me a draft. She's in Greece right now, so otherwise I think she would be on here with Fiona, but we can email out the facilitator's guide. But the main thing is you need to get there a little bit early to meet with Daphne, because I'm
Okay, so
actually,
meet
other
with her.
than putting the presentation together, this is Daphne's baby, mainly. So it's kind of what she's on the team for. She's excellent at this. So she'll provide a training for anybody who's going to do it. But we do need to know who's willing to be a facilitator. It's just really important. We need to know who that's going to be.
So would that email that I had sent out on Friday include just a quick Google form for everyone? We could talk about it tonight, but in addition to that, that might be help to just kind of organize who's doing what, so
Yeah.
we're not double dipping.
Did that include the facilitator position?
Yes, yeah, facilitated breakout groups, about 6 to 7 people are gonna be needed for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the
facilitator?
facilitators, I think
Yeah.
we should plan on having 6. Now, I'm going to have staff there. Fiona, who's up on the screen, will be there, and our colleague Tyler will come as well. Daphne will be there. There'll be 1 or 2 people from Beta Group, which is on the team for transportation and sustainability, or support for sustainability, I should say. Fiona's actually leading that part of the plan. So we'll have some people there, but what we typically try to do is go around and be available as resource people. If somebody's got a really difficult table and people are not getting along and whatever, we can kind of step in to help. But we don't actually, it's more important for you to be seen as leaders of this process than it is for people to see us. I can't underscore that enough. It's all part of the message that this is the town's plan, not the consultants.
So we don't know how many people are coming.
Right.
But you're assuming, say, 6 to 8 people, and at each table, which seats 10, 8?
Probably 6 to 8, something like that.
So-
We don't know how many people are going to come. We have to be prepared for,
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like a lot of people. I would think more people would attend than like 60 or 70 people, no?
you're going to get a lot more participation online.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's all you will. And it may actually be a little bit different, too,
Okay.
in tone. But I just don't know, because I've not done a big meeting here before. Ashley, did you ever do any big thing when you were here? I mean, you might have a sense.
60 people would be a lot.
Really? Do you think so?
Yeah, on a weeknight, evening, when,
Okay.
especially, I don't know.
So the last time we did it, which of course was many years ago, it was on a Saturday,
Yep.
and I don't know if that plays into it at all. Maybe we see what turnout's like for this one and then decide for the next one. I don't know.
Yeah, I've done them on Saturdays.
I don't know if
We've-
it makes a difference.
We've done them, it's, every town is different. We did Medfield's on a Sunday afternoon, like at 4. people came out in droves for spaghetti dinner, and it was just great fun.
I don't know if, and maybe Donnell or even John would remember, but years ago, we did something similar for the downtown, just the downtown, and we had a meeting at, maybe it was Raphael's or one of those places, and it was pretty well attended. There was a lot of downtown business owners, and, I don't know if you remember, I don't know if
I
we
do
had free
remember that.
food, but it was a good crowd. I mean, it was probably at least 60 people, I would think.
Yeah, I would say. It was an afternoon, wasn't it?
Late afternoon, yeah. During the week.
So we'll just have to see. I mean, we will have some additional consultants
We had a
there. If we
bar.
have to do more rooms, we'll have to do, I mean, we have to do more breakout tables, we'll do more breakout tables. But I'm assuming we need probably 6. That's typically about what we need. We will, of course, bring all the supplies for the meeting. Typically, there's flip chart sheets, and so there's one of those for each table, and markers to take notes. We sometimes have little questionnaire things for people to sort of write down their own thoughts on something. If they're not comfortable talking in a group, we collect those up. I don't know what to some extent, I think the actual timing of when people sit down to actually listen to the presentation and get going is dependent on what the food plan is going to be. So I'm wondering if we should jump to that and then come
Yeah,
back to the rest of
absolutely.
this, organizing this meeting.
Yeah, for sure. So, that was one of the things I passed out. Actually, I'm gonna pass one of those down to Ashley and Jen.
Can you hear okay, Fiona? Okay, super.
So being in the high
Yes.
school, makes sense to utilize the school lunch the school dining program. Both Judy and I have been in touch with Maria Hall, who's the in charge of that over there. They have a catering page that's set up, but they're also pretty cooperative in terms of being able to work with whatever we think is the best option. So I just put together a few different examples. I mean, thinking about something that kind of fits a wide range of audience, so something that's kind of general. Most people like what's listed there. So I just want to kind of throw that out to the group. It's just kind of what option anyone's leaning towards, and then also kind of talk about, especially with you, Judy, about what we're thinking about for numbers. Because if we are doing a hot meal option, I kind of need to finalize that tomorrow and be able to kind of give them a range of what to expect in terms of serving. So that is the one.
Well, let me just tell you, my secret to public meeting attendance is, email blasts are helpful, whatever. A personal invitation is more effective than anything else that you will do. You pick up the phone and you call somebody. And I usually tell my committees, call 3 people you like and 3 people you can't stand. Because if you really want to have a process that's representative of a lot of different groups, you need to think about your own responsibility as residents to kind of help make that happen. So I would just throw that out to you. We talked at the last meeting about some groups that are not typically well represented in these things. And so if you happen to have connections to some of those groups, your inviting them can make a big difference as to whether they think they're welcome. So this is an aspect of this process that really is more in your hands than ours. I mean, we can provide informational materials, we can do those kinds of things, but we can't do the outreach for you because people don't know us. So it's really going to come down, I think, to the efforts of the committee. And I'm sorry that we have to kind of rush this a little bit this fall, but we need to get this in before Christmas, and we just couldn't do this earlier. So that's where we are. Typically at these meetings, you might see 60, 70 people, and you'd say that was a success. You might see 400 online. I just don't know.
Well, what would you do in that case? You're set up for 6 tables and you have 400 people, what are you gonna do?
No, online.
No. 400 online, 400 online on Miro, not in the meeting.
I get 400 people in the meeting. I'm the best outreach person.
They
Yeah.
don't make pizza over that kitchen, do they? That would be a lot easier than
I think
this
they
kind
do,
of
yeah.
food.
I think so. That is an option too. I mean, if they
So
make
why don't you, I think this really needs to be decided this week.
yeah, and so this is just some more of the meal options. They do have snack options, they do have pizza options. I mean, it's kind of whatever we want, and that's unfortunately the best. It's kind of broad, but they were very cooperative in terms of they can work with whatever we think.
Well, it gets messy
Best.
when if there's a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier, you got finger food or things that, people, the main thing isn't having a dinner, but going there to have a snack while they're participating in a program, you know, but it's a different mindset.
And pizza's easy to do a vegetarian option as
True.
well.
True.
So is spaghetti.
I just worry that we're gonna waste food. If we plan for 60 people and 5 show up, we've wasted food.
Yeah.
Does it have to be a hot meal? Can't we do something that's more just like come for dessert?
Whatever
It's up to
whatever-
you.
Yeah,
It's
honestly,
totally
yeah.
up to you guys, whatever you want
Does
to
the,
do.
what does the brochure say in terms of food?
Refreshments, I think.
Refreshments.
So is everybody gonna have, you slam down dinner and then run over to the meeting? I mean, it doesn't really, refreshments, what's that? That's like a
Yeah.
drink and a cookie.
Okay, well, if
I
that's
don't-
what the board.
I'm not saying that's what we should do, it just seems like, this is a lot, this is a big
More of a-
deal.
Just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interject here, but the flyer I'm reading says, talk with your friends and neighbors over a light dinner.
Like,
Well, that's good,
Yeah.
that's right, that's because you told me it was gonna be a dinner.
Yeah, light dinner. I mean, if we did something like
Do
pizza,
something simple.
That's still a late dinner. Yeah.
I'm sure we could find people who would take the leftovers.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good in-betweener.
I think if you stuck them in some of the
Yeah, that's fine.
fridges in town hall,
I think
someone would.
John and Ashley are onto something. Maybe Patrick, tomorrow, if there's a pizza option with vegetarian
Yeah,
and non,
yeah,
try that.
there's-
If not, we'll pick a plan B off of this list. What
Yeah.
do you think?
That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah,
Mike said pizza and salad.
Yeah, I mean, keeping it simple does have advantages, including, you know, not delaying unduly the start of the meeting.
Yeah.
Because 2 hours will fly by.
because you're looking to start at 6:30, right, for the dinner?
No,
that right?
7.
7 is what,
7 for the dinner.
yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't give a whole lot of time. If the dinner takes,
No, but if people grab their food and go sit at a table, they can listen to the presentation, they can do whatever, and I think
Right.
that's fine.
Right.
We've done that too.
So it'll start with the presentation at the beginning so people can eat and
Yeah, we'll probably give them about 10 minutes, you know, they can, there's gonna be these stations with the maps and stuff. There's gonna be things for people to do if they get there 6:45. We're not gonna have them getting bored. So there'll be other things for them to do until what, 7 o'clock is when I'd like to start.
Can
You've done
I-
a lot of these, I don't wanna micromanage it, so I think that sounds
Yeah.
great. Pizza.
Yeah.
salad.
Can I
Yeah.
ask a question about, so when folks walk in and they're signing in, is there information that we're gathering about that person?
Yes,
Okay.
so that's part of why we need 2 people at the registration table.
Okay,
Have you seen the list of what we are
I
asking?
did,
for?
so
Okay.
I just wasn't sure, you know, what information we're collecting
So
there.
we will have a map, just a basic street map. We're gonna ask people to indicate where they live, like little dots, you know, sticky dots. We'll have an agenda. We could, if you want us to have a one-page handout on what's a master plan, we could do that. That might be a good idea, actually, because I'm not sure what people even know about this process at this point.
I think that would be great, and what I'm thinking also is if there's any way for us to get a sense of who attended, so do you have children, do you not have children?
Oh, we do that on boards. So
Okay.
we typically, this is part of what I'm saying, we're gonna have these
Yeah.
boards up. So
Right,
you know, what age group are you? You know, how long have you lived in town? All right, you know, do you have kids, do you not have kids, whatever you want, but I mean, 3 or 4 of those questions, so people can answer, because otherwise, you know, sometimes we do that with Turning Technologies, we could do it that way too, Fiona. Do you prefer to do it as a poll rather than having people indicate on the boards?
I'm fine with either option, really. I think that it's more
Ooh,
interactive when
volume
you
is
have
really
them.
light on this.
Can you hear me?
Glenn?
Sure. Either or is fine with me. I really don't mind. I think that Turning Technologies is a better option when we're presenting and having a lot of folks polling at once and seeing the results in real time,
Okay,
but we can make it work.
yeah, we could do that. We sometimes, no? Go ahead, I want to hear, we want to hear what you think.
As somebody who's been in a lot of PD sessions where they attempt to do that, I think there's a lot more opportunity for somebody to get frustrated if they can't figure out how to work it on their phone or whatever device there is. And I think the visuals might actually be really powerful and really interesting, not just for us, but for the other participants. So not to throw water on the
No, it's fine.
idea, I think pulling like that kind of tech definitely has its place, but I just worry about overcomplicating, especially at our first go-around.
Yep, that's actually a good point, Fiona.
Sure.
People aren't used to the devices. Those
Right.
devices actually caused the town of Plymouth to have to redo a town meeting.
Oh dear.
Yes, it was not pretty, so,
They
so.
couldn't
I-
just
we-
answer a sheet, like just check off a sheet?
No, we
family
have
of
it on a
4?
board, and we have it on a board, we give them sticky dots, and they can just put them
Yeah,
up,
Then
and
you can't correlate the families. You don't know who's got a large and small, you just
we
get.
don't care, we
you
wanna
get the
know,
gross data, you're not getting any
that's what we want.
segmentation data of what populations you represent.
We just wanna know what ages are in the room, whether they have families, I mean, that's all we wanna know.
Well, that's.
They're basically the same kinds of questions you would ask on a survey.
Disjointed, put it that way, the data's disjointed, you can't analyze the data very effectively. You just get some gross numbers.
Okay,
I would say that either a questionnaire or polling where you can associate all the different answers with an entity.
oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I think that the boards have worked fine, and like you said, you can get, everybody sees sort of oh my God, most of the people here are 65 or over. What does that say? So, we will attempt to get some basic information about people. We'll sort out whether to do it with the devices or not, but I know what you're trying to say. It's sometimes helpful to use those if people have had more experience with them. So, we'll sort that out internally, but.
Can you circulate a draft of the questions that you're gonna ask on the boards? Like, for instance, you said, do you have families? Well, we all have families. so,
I know, I'm just,
like, just
yes,
so
we
know
will.
the languages.
We're happy to. We can circulate that. Probably won't be until Monday, but we can do it. The reason I say that is that Daphne's coming back this week, and I want to work with her on it. So, does anybody else have any questions about that? So we need 2 people at the registration table, because when people come in, they're gonna sign in, and they need to be told where to go. So it's like you need just 2 people at the registration table to kind of help people get settled. You need people to guide them if people come in with kids. Somebody needs to be there to say, oh, you're going to childcare, go down the hall, or food's over there. You just need, all of you probably could occupy a role that night. Question is, what are you willing to do?
And we can just sign up on the Google form that Patrick sent out. I
Yeah.
signed
I've
up
got
to be a
some
greeter and to
responses.
clean up,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I did not sign up to facilitate, but if you need people, I'll be there, so.
Yeah, I would just say, if you sign up, it will be helpful to us, because we need to know what gaps there are.
Do we know what we have so far, Patrick?
Yeah, I got 6 responses. I got more, a lot of people are signing up for the registration sign-in table. Do you want me to go through every person?
No, I'm just
Yeah,
curious as,
Yeah, we definitely need people to help facilitate the breakout groups. Like I said, from the 6 responses so far, I've got 2 for breakout groups, so I don't know if we want to just go through each thing right now, maybe
I
kind
think
of
we really
discuss it. So,
should,
yeah.
because I need to know, I got a plan.
Patrick, you can move me from the registration
Can I-
desk to facilitate.
Can I
Sure.
make a suggestion too? So like, I'm willing to do anything,
Mhm.
but someone else might be more comfortable doing something specific. So maybe you ask those who want to do something specific first, and then those who are willing to fill in anywhere, you can put where you need them. It's up to you, I just,
However you want to do it. Do we want to just go through?
No, I
ask
think
each
Katie
one
has a
of it?
point, but I mean, we have these specific jobs, and I think if you have the form, we need to actually sit here and go through this.
Can you just plug people in
Just
where
do it
you
that
see
way.
fit, and
Yeah.
if they're uncomfortable with it, find someone and swap with
Switch.
them?
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe raise your hand if you're not gonna be
If there's
there.
a job you don't want, tell
that's
Pat.
important. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I suppose that's true. If there's something you don't want, speak now or forever hold your peace, because,
I unfortunately will not be there. I made plans prior to even being on this board, so
Yep.
I'm gone the 14th through the 19th.
okay.
All right.
I don't mind what I do.
So we need everybody who can be there. Trust me, we just need them there.
Okay, so why don't we'll just list the options right now?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
raise your hand if you can do it, and if not,
Oh, I thought you were just gonna put a
Oh,
name,
okay, I'll
put a
plug-
name in a space, and then we'll just figure it out.
Give us jobs.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody can't be there, I think, tell you now, but otherwise,
Yeah.
just assign us.
just assign it. I'll
Yeah,
do it that way.
yeah.
then. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Keep it easy.
It's all you.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Then I can assume that this is being taken care of.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, if anyone, if you wanna go through the link and click it, again, just to indicate that you definitely wanna do something or not wanna do something, other than that, you'll just be assigned based upon
Right,
who's there, so.
yeah.
Pull out your phones and answer now.
Yes.
One thing that is important to us, I think, too, though, aside from the signing people, this is something that we need to know if someone actually wants to do it. We have a lot of pictures of Walpole right now, but, you know, when a consultant comes into a town cold, you're not really getting the town. You're sort of getting buildings that are cool, or, you know, parks that are nice, or whatever. And I'm wondering if there's anybody on the committee who really loves to take pictures, because we would very much like to have pictures of people actually involved in the community. It took us 3 different trips to Hingham to get the photos that we really wanted of that town, which were not just, you know, the first parish hall, the actual true first parish hall. But, you know, people are kind of involved in things. I mean, you guys are all, I think, involved in something in your community. Is anybody willing to help us sort of capture photographically some of what makes this place a town? You are?
I do a lot of photography, so
Okay,
I probably have a lot of photographs already.
okay. It would be wonderful if you're willing to share them for use in the plan. I would say if you are, let Pat know. We can make you the official photo repository. Pat?
So you're looking for pictures for the event, or you're just afterward, you know, just ongoing?
More for use in the plan, but yes, I mean, to have
At the
pictures for the
final
event
document.
would be wonderful. I mean, one of the things that we are going to be doing is pulling together a presentation about the plan, so if anybody has pictures now that you'd like to share, it would be wonderful. Otherwise, we're going to use our stuff, which I think is probably a lot more sterile than what you have.
Is there a Google Drive or something that we can upload pictures to on our own?
We have Dropbox.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, you guys, we should make sure they all have.
Yeah, everyone
You
has.
guys have
everyone
to
has
know.
it.
We have a Dropbox, if you don't have it,
I'll
let Pat know.
receive.
I'm sorry, I missed the first meeting, so
That's
I'll,
okay.
that's fine.
We'll get it for you.
I'll send it
I'll
back
figure it out,
out
yeah.
after this.
I just
I'll make
wanted
a folder just for pictures, and you guys can just upload them there.
Just a quick plug for the open space and recreation plan, which we just completed in 2020, was certified in 2021. It's a good guide, it has a number of pictures in there of Adams Farm and Town Hall.
Great,
I mean, it's the
super.
same idea, we could rip off that, or we can certainly come up with some original content, but it's a reflection of Walpole.
Yep.
And you can look through, it's an 80-page document, you can look through, it's online, we could look through what we did there and do something similar or better or different.
Do you guys have a picture suppository for that?
Not me personally, but somebody does, yeah.
Or if they donate, yeah.
They're available. And conservation agent Landis Hershey would have that probably.
I'll ask them. We meet on Wednesday.
Are there any events coming up in town in the next, you know, over the holiday season, where it might make sense
There's a
to?
parade coming up, I believe.
Veterans Day
Street
celebration.
lighting.
Veterans Day on Thursday of this week.
Tree lighting after Thanksgiving.
Probably
Tree
sooner
lighting
than I
and
can
Santa
manage,
parade,
but.
day after Thanksgiving.
I'm just, the reason I'm asking is that sometimes we like to kind of align master plan activities with things that are going on in the community. So if you knew there were going to be a bunch of people at a, you know, Santa's Day or something.
Birthday hike, I gotta put a plug in for that.
Yeah, you know, we might ask to see, we might want to see if there's something we could do to sort of promote the master plan at those kinds of activities. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and Fiona, we will get to you, is that after the meeting, in addition to the Miro board, which you will get to see before the end of the night, I had mentioned at the first meeting, and I want to plug this again, we have a kit called Meeting in a Box. Some people call it Kitchen Conversations. And this is, again, where some of you had mentioned at that first meeting about certain groups that are hard to get involved in an activity like this. You can help us with, or you can help yourselves, it's your plan, with outreach to some of those groups who may not come to a meeting and so forth, by essentially having one in your own kitchen. So we provide the materials. It's very similar to the community meeting, same kinds of questions, maybe some stuff that's a little bit more in-depth. But people get to participate in the comfort of someone's home instead of coming out to the high school, which is a more formal type of thing. And you may be able to reach some of the folks that you were concerned might not be reached otherwise. So It would be ideal if people on this committee would agree to host a meeting in a box or / community, kitchen conversation sometime around the holiday, before the holidays, or after, even shortly after the holidays. That input will all come to us for consideration as Daphne and I work on drafting the vision statement for the plan. It's just another way to get input. We had amazing success with that in Hingham. I think we had, oh my word, there must have been at least 25 meeting in a box leaders.
And you
in that
don't
town.
find that comes back biased?
Well, sure, everybody's got a bias.
But I mean, so what I mean by that is when you do like the group meeting, or if you do the survey online, it's more different than sitting around your kitchen table with a bunch of people and pushing your views on them. Do
Well,
you know
that's
what I
not what
mean?
you're, yeah, but see, that's the thing, like, you have to be willing to not do that, because your job would again be a facilitator. So we provide a packet, here are the questions, here are the forms that the participants need. Some of it is discussion, some of it is they've got their own paper, that they're kind of filling out answer to a question to. And what you do as the meeting in a box facilitator is you gather all that up at the end and you get it to Pat. What it does is it kind of helps us understand how fragmented is the community. So if you're getting very consistent kind of input from people relative to maybe what we heard in the community meeting or what we heard on Miro or something, it's just another way to say, what are the things that people agree on in this town, even if they're fundamentally coming from a different place? And again, I think that if there's a concern about some people perhaps not being adequately represented in the process, that's another way to try to get them involved. So we're really going to ask you, I think it's not just sort of making a suggestion, I think we're asking you to all consider kind of doing that. It's something you could even do at the senior center.
And how big a group do you usually do?
Gosh, I think some of the people in Hingham may have had 4 and some had 12. I mean, some people like to socialize, So I think.
Depends if it's wine or coffee, right?
This is true, this is true. I mean, I wouldn't try to make it too big, but every one of you has connections to somebody in this community. So it's something that I think that would be extremely helpful to the process. And I don't want you guys to feel like you're coming here, once a month or once every other month and just sort of listening to us. Like, you need to be ambassadors of this plan. That really is your job. And we want to give you tools to do that, and to maybe try to make the outreach in this as effective as possible. So I think after the meeting on the 17th, and once we sort of start seeing the Miro stuff coming in, I think we're going to ask again for people to volunteer to do that. And we'll make the materials available. It's a really simple, very simple meeting to do. I want to just.
How much time would one allot for that type of
An
conversation?
hour and 15 minutes maybe.
Coffee or wine, it depends on.
Huh?
Okay, I said it depends on if it's coffee or wine.
True.
But I think it would behoove us to do that, because we are trying to reach out to more groups. And when you look at it, if only 60 or 100 people come to one event, we get 400 responses online. It's just a fraction of the number of residents in the
Well,
town. So if we don't reach
yeah.
out
Yeah.
ourselves, so I think it's a good opportunity, and it would behoove us to really, to your question, Katie, about, bias, but if we reach out to a lot of groups, that would maybe normalize things too, that we're,
Yeah.
we're.
I mean, I've never worked in a town where there wasn't bias all over the place. I mean, it's out there everywhere, right? So nothing like that would surprise us. But again, I think, what we're trying to find out is, well, what do people have in common and what do they see in common? Your plan never works if it doesn't start by trying to build on what's working well. And we need to know that. So to the extent that we can find out where people generally do agree on certain fundamental things, that's helpful. And you may be sitting here right now saying, well, people don't agree on anything on certain topics. But what we often find is that when you sort of start scratching below the surface, there is a surprising amount of agreement. And then there are things where people simply don't agree. And sometimes by the end of the process, they do. But I just think it's really a way for you to try to maximize the effectiveness of whatever outreach happens on this plan.
Are these limited, the kitchen conversations, to the steering committee?
Oh, no.
Or, because I'm wondering if there's a way to mobilize like the town meeting group and reach out, because they cover the town, right? And see if
Yeah.
any of them would be willing to host or.
Yeah, there's several of us here.
Oh, see, that would be awesome.
I also think, I'm sure you said you'd provide guidance in a packet for these
Yeah, yeah.
conversations.
Oh, yeah.
I also think that if a conversation was happening in South Walpole versus East Walpole, North Walpole, and West Walpole, depends on where the conversation is happening.
Oh,
I
yeah.
almost feel like the questions might want to be focused around, like, my neighborhood has some things that they're particularly concerned with. And if I tried to talk to them about a South Walpole concern, they might, engage the topic, but they probably wouldn't be as interested as if we talked about something that affects them directly. So just, I think would the questions be geared specifically toward a
No,
neighborhood?
they're not, but they go that way.
I would imagine
But
they
they
would.
do,
Yeah.
but that's fine, that's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. I mean, they're umbrella level questions, and people remarkably kind of take them where their heart is. And so, if they're South Walpole and they interpret those questions from a South Walpole, I can't talk tonight, perspective, that's fine.
Yeah,
Then we learn something about South Walpole.
Could we set a goal of having, I don't know if this is reasonable or not, but just throwing this out there, of having X number of town meeting members host one of these in their precinct or something like that? I just need, like, what are we working towards and how are we kind of measuring, okay, we did it, we got people out there?
So, how many precincts are there in this town?
8. I think 10 of us, if I counted correctly, are town meeting members here.
That's a bias.
That's a bias.
Um,
Town meeting members.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
I don't know how to answer that,
Okay.
Ashley. I
It's a
think
good
that-
idea. I like that idea. We could each reach out to a representative that we thought would be comfortable
I
doing
need
that.
homework, I'm a homework person, so my homework is to get 2 other town meeting members in my precinct to host
You have
these.
one who lives across the street from you could start with her.
She's already on my list, yeah.
Yes, so I could reach out to 2 other town meeting members in precinct 3, and we could maybe host something together with people from the precinct.
I mean, I think that would be fabulous, and that, but then again, you really are you're being ambassadors for the process, like, you're reaching out to other people in the community and getting them involved, that's exactly what you should be doing. Yeah. That'd be great. So, you're gonna hear more about that, probably in email after the 17th, but right now, our focus is getting through the 17th, and also the online experience for people thereafter. So, are you just gonna assign people?
Yeah, I mean, again, you could help me out by filling out that Google form, and then other than that, we'll just kind of let everyone know by, we'll set the email to everybody by like Monday,
I
Tuesday
would
next
say by
week.
Monday, we need to have
Alright.
all these roles filled.
Yeah.
We really do.
Great.
That's just, because we
So,
need to be able to plan.
I'll send out another email tomorrow just to remind everybody, then I'll send an email out on Tuesday just signing you,
Right,
so.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you. If you can't be there on the 17th, you could do a meeting in a box afterwards. That would be super.
But just to be clear, from your perspective, the roles are filled, right? Now it's just a matter of putting names in boxes.
Pat's gonna,
Yeah, you
I've
don't have to,
delegated that to
you're
Pat.
covered that night, yeah.
God, I hope so.
Yes.
I mean, I just heard concern from you that, like, we need to get these roles filled. They're all filled. We're gonna just put our names there and we'll all take care of it.
And you're all gonna show up.
We're all gonna show up.
And people could do 2 things if we need video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's
So,
what it
if
said.
we-
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you
It said
can,
two
if
things.
you're available for more than one position,
Yeah.
Yeah,
just click that, yeah.
we will appreciate it immensely. Fiona, do you wanna try to bring up the Miro board so people can see it?
Sure. Let me know if anyone is struggling to see. Give me a minute.
Yeah, I don't know how
Here.
easy this is gonna be to see that far away. Oh, I keep
So the
forgetting about that
host, it says I can't screen share at the moment because it's disabled by the host.
thing. Is that me?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't stop
I
you.
think that might be you.
Yeah, you have
Julia.
to go into,
Yeah, I know. I use this every day on, yeah. Hold on, Fiona.
Zoom back screen.
If you
No
make me a
problem.
co-host. There you go, my dear.
Thank you.
Didn't think about that before I left.
Me either, so I should have. All right, so can folks see this? It's zoomed out at the moment, but I'm gonna start by kind of moving toward the nearest station. So this would be station 1. And it's very, it's pretty straightforward, and we'll elaborate more on these instructions for folks. But, you can click on a sticky note and just add it, here's hello. You can add comments. It's pretty, there's this toolbar here to the left. People can interact with that as much as they'd like. There's markers, shapes, but ideally we want folks to probably just stick to the sticky notes. But, and then once you click on the sticky note, another toolbar appears where you can change different settings, the font, the size, you can add an emoji, a lot of fun things to do. So we've had a lot of success with Miro in the past for similar engagement activities. And so that, and we tried to mirror it off of how the event is going to be in person. So, we pose questions, people can answer. Then station 2, it's similar to station 1, where you can, continue to engage.
So Fiona, can you just zoom in on each question so people can kind of see what the questions are? Because they haven't seen any of that yet.
Sure, yeah, so I'll start at the beginning again. So station 1 here.
Getting that Daphne already
Sorry,
walked her through this.
I hope that everyone can see. So there's some instructions, and this first one is, what is your favorite, what are your favorite things about Walpole? And then we move to the blue section. What do you like most about living/working in Walpole? And then,
What do the blue rectangles represent? That's where they could put one answer?
They can put as many on.
Yeah.
16, is that what it is, 60?
Yeah, they're like little sticky notes. And you can type in them. Sorry, I can't spell today.
That's all right, don't worry about it.
You can assign, priority. It's fun. You can say, all right, so this is a medium priority.
You don't have to, but
yeah, there's just options. And then the last question in station 1, for the moment, is, what would you want to be sure is preserved in the future? So, I can just, copy and paste if I want to add some more here. I want to.
Is there like an entry
I
or
wanna-
like a directions page for us to access it?
Yes, and we'll physically write out the directions as well. But and also I can create a little area here saying, instructions.
We could even do a Loom video and attach it to it in case people find it easier to see a face and hear a voice instead of just reading it all.
Yeah, you can link YouTube videos and photos. It's very easy. So we can, whatever the committee thinks is the best way to convey the instructions, I'll make it work.
So if somebody gets in here and they put in their comments and they're posting little sticky notes, is that only their sticky notes, or they see everybody else's comments as well?
They will be able to see anything that's been updated prior to their comment.
Just like they were in a meeting.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Someone
Same
monitoring
experience.
it?
What?
Does anybody monitor this?
We are
I
available.
can see
We're
this
doing
being
this.
a
Yes.
terrible Walpole,
Just,
We're trying this
posting board.
asynchronously this time to see if
But-
the flexibility is helpful to people. We will check it,
yeah.
we will manage it, but we're not gonna be on 24 hours a day. If asynchronous turns into a not pleasant experience, then when we do this again, it will be synchronous, it will be timed, it will be some other time, over like a 4-hour window or something. We start these things trusting people and see how it goes.
But there's no setting that would allow you just to input your own suggestions and then you capture them all? Or do you want it to be a live conversation where you're taking someone else's idea and building on it? And
They can comment on somebody else's.
Ideally, yeah.
They can,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can lock your, so I just locked this sticky note here. I don't know if you can see it,
Yeah,
but, so that's an option. And there are other, settings, Miro general settings that, you know, privacy settings that we can adjust, should people start to, abuse their privileges with the board. But, yeah, I've had, you know, I am going to be watching this, you know, I'm checking it like at least once a day and just making sure that, you know, there's no, you know, swear words and things like that.
it's really almost like an open-ended survey,
Yeah,
but the experience of it is responding it with these electronic Post-it notes.
Yeah, the concept is very cool, it's the, I guess, what's meant to be collaborative may not be it may not be productive, you know, if you can see everybody else's comments and.
But they can do that in the meeting.
All right, I'm just telling you what I
No,
see.
no, we're gonna see,
Yeah.
this is a grand experiment for us. We've not done this in your town before.
Yeah, they're not gonna do it in the meeting, they're gonna do it on here.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll,
It's
then
different,
we may have to deal with that.
Yeah.
How long is it open for?
A couple of days. We left open through the weekend, just to give people the flexibility of time.
I'm sorry, it's anonymous too, is it? Anonymous?
Well, that's
Mhm.
better.
Everyone's
Yeah.
brave.
Do you
Yeah.
capture their, you know, their age and where they live and things, or?
We have we can have some demographic questions in there, I think we do.
Yeah, how do you know that it's really
Yeah.
people from Walpole completing it and not someone just grabbing an address?
You may not.
That person needs
But-
more to do.
Yeah,
How many,
I think probably the fact that it's anonymous would be, maybe prevent some of the infighting, but, you know, who knows?
how much rights do the folks have? Do they have for editing rights and adding squares and such? They're gonna have limited editing rights for this, right?
they
Well,
are
we've been in-
basically,
Go ahead, Fiona, I'm sorry.
sorry. They're basically only allowed to, use the tools that are provided to the left here on this toolbar, which is, you know, what we went over, like the Post-it notes, typing, shapes, marker, comment, like the basics. They're not going to be able to do anything crazier than that.
I might be jumping ahead and stealing your thunder, I don't know if this is it, but are there any like already populated storyboards where people get to kind of score them and say, you know, this experience is very appealing to me, this is something
We haven't
that's.
done anything like that for this yet.
Okay.
We can consider it.
That's a good idea.
It is, yeah.
Very good
It's a
idea.
idea.
But we have used Miro, you know, we had a community meeting in Arlington a couple weeks ago, and we had a facilitator who was actively updating the Miro board while communicating with their breakout groups via Zoom. We've used it elsewhere. You know, we do find that people enjoy it a lot, and find it easy to use. I do agree with the privacy settings. It might need some tweaking, but we can definitely do that.
For the user, it's like going up to a 24 by 36 board with a question on it and putting a sticky note up.
I'm wondering, so someone mentioned like 400 people engaging with this. How
I
does,
was making up a number, actually,
But-
just,
right, but like, I'm just trying to, if we do get a high, how does that look on, like, how does it all fit in here? Is that a not problem?
It does
Maybe
mimic.
add another sticky note.
It does mimic Google Docs in the way that you can see if you can see somebody who might be interacting with the board at the same time as you, but you're not interfering with their actions. You're just seeing, you know, anonymous is adding a sticky note. You can see
This
it.
first question could have 400 sticky notes.
Stressing me out.
I mean, that
I was
would be
thinking
like
about 5 pages of sticky notes for one question.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could, but yeah, this is definitely just a draft board, and we'll be adding a lot more, just so you all can kind of get an idea of what we're thinking. But yes, we'll probably need more sticky notes,
So
and probably a lot more blank space.
And they auto lock. I think that would probably be a good, that way people can't delete
Yeah.
other people's posts.
So I can
I
just,
guess we'll see how it goes.
So you don't
See
do
what
questionnaires
sticks.
then, where you ask people? You know,
See if it
individual-
sticks.
Sorry.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you don't do questionnaires where, you know, people just answer, you know, for, you know, one self-contained questionnaire per person, and, you know, they say who, you know, a little bit demographics, and then they answer,
You know, we've done surveys too.
yes, or,
We just find that people, this really is like a big survey is what it is. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, I think it's neat.
it just seems to be a more enjoyable experience for the user. People get surveyed out.
Mhm.
You can see the other
Yes,
responses
they
in real
do.
time, you don't
Yeah.
have to.
I like the
No.
concept.
17 and up.
It really is cool. And if you think about it, when you're sitting in the meeting at the table with 8 other people, you're gonna see what everybody else is saying, because it's being written down, so.
Do you have the results of one of these?
I have a board that we had done for another community.
Are we allowed
Um,
to see that?
Judy, what do you think?
I don't know if we've cleaned it up yet. Is there a
Okay.
I guess
I
I'd
want to see what
like
it
to
looks
know.
like. I don't know.
Right, we want to make sure it doesn't look like a chaotic mess, I think is.
No, it's not gonna be a chaotic mess.
Yeah.
It won't be a chaotic
But it will
mess.
be organized afterwards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
And with a staff member from Barrett Planning Group, most likely me, actually, you know what, definitely me, I will be making sure that it is organized in a way that makes sense for a viewer, and just, yeah, making sure that it's clean.
Do you have a lot of issues in this community with people
Well, we've had
interacting?
Team Walpole recommends.
We've had some virtual meetings.
been
basically
Zoom bombed pretty bad.
bombed with some pretty awful
Yeah,
stuff.
it happens.
It's happened
channel.
more than once.
I don't think any more than any other community.
Yeah.
I couldn't say if it's more or less, but it does make me a little nervous.
Yeah.
You know, just
Mhm.
the anonymity for some people really opens them up to being honest, and for some people it really opens them up to
Being
behavior that
abusive.
you wouldn't see if they were in the high school cafeteria eating pizza. So, but I think it's worth trying. I'm happy to know that it's gonna be monitored.
Yeah,
To see,
definitely.
to make sure that it's not
Yeah.
getting abused.
We're not gonna put it up and then walk away from it for 4
Yeah.
days. What we are doing is we're not gonna sit on it the whole time. I mean, we're gonna see how this goes, frankly. And if it's a problem, then we would do it differently next time. What does matter to us as planners is that people have an opportunity to participate. And if we have learned anything from the pandemic, it's that people will participate if you make it comfortable for them and if you make it possible for them. It is not possible for a lot of people to come to a 7:00 meeting at night.
Easy.
So that's why we do this, because we're trying to maximize participation. And we'll have to just see how this format goes, and, you know, if people are bad, then we'll, we'll figure out another alternative.
I think you're gonna get what you need. I mean, the front end of this application is just kind of a cool way of,
Yeah.
pulling in survey data mixed with a Facebook discussion thread. you know?
Exactly, that's exactly, yeah.
Right. And it's really fun looking, and that's great, but you're gonna get all of that noise. As long as you can get the information that you need to move forward, then that's fine.
You can feel the heartburn in the
I
room.
think there might be two different levels of concern too, right? Like, one of them is that you get sort of like unproductive, gripey type of comments. Another one is like, is somebody gonna fill it with hate speech, right? Like,
Yeah.
those are two very different
Yep.
things. And I think you're right, like, the first one can be filtered out, you take it with a grain of salt, cause you
Yep.
know how that it does affect people's comments, whether they're anonymous or online versus in person. But the other side of it, it could potentially be harmful to somebody who's logging on and wants to go and participate and is
Sure.
suddenly met with
Yep.
a whole bunch of stuff that they weren't.
And the latter would harm the integrity of the process too. If other
Correct.
people saw that, they wouldn't give it the
That's
same credibility.
Correct.
Could we have, and I don't know if this is in there, like a contact, if you have any questions or concerns about
Oh, yeah.
this or need assistance,
Sure.
please reach out to.
Yeah, I assumed we would do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to populate this board with kind of basic information about, please remember to be courteous. This is a public board, and if you're having any issues with the board and are trying to engage and you can, please contact Fiona Coughlin at Barrett Planning Group, and just kind of I'll have that basic language front and center so folks can see.
We can get to see the draft this before it's launched?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And do you find the users, are people intimidated by the technology here? I know that it's easy for people that are on computers every day and can do this stuff, it's super easy, but for people that are
That's
not.
for the seniors.
I'll tell you, the seniors had a horrible time registering for COVID.
So you
So,
miss a
okay.
segment of the population.
I didn't want to say
So-
seniors,
Well,
I
you
was
miss
just,
a segment.
The important thing is that you use this, if you're gonna use it qualitatively, just for the comments, not quantitatively, because
Right.
it's raw. If somebody wants an indoor lacrosse thing, they can post 1,000 things here, you won't know.
Right.
There's no one person, one vote. It's totally subject to bias of an issue, so you can note the issue, but it's just gotta be a qualitative thing, there's that interest. You can't say, well, they had 800 votes on the box, so that doesn't mean anything. There aren't votes.
We actually don't deal with input at the meeting or even a Survey Monkey. We don't deal with it.
No, I'm talking about the
quantitatively.
analysis.
I'm talking about the analysis. We are actually, we don't try to do a whole lot quantitatively because people get hung up on, is something a scientific survey? And there's no such thing as a scientific survey with Survey Monkey. So we really talk about more like what did respondents have to say or what issues were identified. That's how we use it. Anybody have any other questions about this?
Judy, did you want me to quickly go through the rest of the frames
Sure, that's
as
great.
they,
Thank
as
you.
they are?
Yep.
There's a few of them, so I will be quick.
Oh, wait, one other thing before you do that.
Sure.
You mentioned paper and pencil, maybe there should be the option. If people want to fill out a survey instead of do this.
We don't have the ability to do a paper survey on this project.
You don't?
No, we don't. We just,
Why not at the high school? What's wrong with that?
yeah.
Next
we're-
week?
Yeah,
So it's a data entry thing.
do the same thing
Yeah.
that you do with the paper.
We can do an electronic survey, we can do this.
I know we do have a survey plan, and if we ever get to that point,
Yeah.
if we have it in paper, it's gonna have to be plugged in
By somebody.
by somebody,
Yeah.
so that is the one downside of that,
Right.
so.
I'm trying to think if it would be helpful. I mean, if someone needed help walking through how to do this, I don't know if, the library has computers. I don't know if we could set up a window of time that says if you'd like to do this, someone will be there to walk you through on a computer.
Like what you did with Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we did with Zoom. We said if anyone needs technology support, contact us and we will get you what you need.
And maybe at the senior center. to do
It may
that.
be at the senior center,
They
maybe
have
the-
help
We can do
there
that.
for, that kind of thing.
Didn't you say for another town you had a facilitated thing? Why couldn't you do that during this time frame at the senior center and have one person in the front taking comments from the seniors? So instead of the seniors creating their own stickies, someone's there to help them actually get the ideas from their words onto this format.
Yeah,
do a lunch,
Well, I think they're the.
do a lunch meeting, or,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
A box,
A box
or
meeting.
kitchen in a box at the
Yeah.
senior center. What is it? No, meeting in a box.
Meeting in
Yeah.
a box.
do a
Kitchen
couple of those, I
conversation.
think you'll get what you need.
You think if you ran a few
So-
at the same time, you'd get a good group?
Yeah,
It would depend, because the senior center is not just Walpole,
Right,
so.
that's,
I mean, we
That
could
has to be
also see what numbers come back and see how many ages and what age gaps we get, and if we notice, hey, there's a hole here, we could then talk about a way to access that
Yeah.
population,
We
right?
can start talking it up at the senior center too. There's always people to listen.
Ashley just gave you an idea too, it's just about when she mentioned the library, if this is gonna be open for 2 days, would we get the library involved and make it available on library computers or promote it with a flyer
I don't know
next
why
to,
not.
on the desk
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
whatever?
We
I
can
mean,
look into it.
there are computers there and there are people sitting down, hey, take a
Idea.
5-minute,
We can look into it.
exploration of this.
Yeah.
They're at a computer anyways, they're obviously from Walpole, most likely.
And if it'd be helpful if we, I don't know, did it on, I'd be happy to volunteer a block of time to just sit there, and if someone came in to walk
The
them through
library,
it.
yeah. Say,
And
hey,
we
take
could
the
take
survey if you
shifts.
want, if you don't, you're busy, that's fine too.
When we advertise for it after the meeting, maybe if we figure out, all right, there's a time during the library, time during the senior center, we can coordinate with those directors, and then we could have that as an option if you're technology, if you're challenged in that area, you can.
Maybe
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Well,
would,
I mean,
try it, but.
Yeah,
I would take an hour
if you want
walk at the
assistance,
library.
yeah.
Harry's robocalls are fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to reach the seniors, is those robocalls go out so frequently. And if there was one telling them you were going to be having these, you know, I don't see the whole senior population coming out 7 to 9 at night.
No, they
They
don't.
don't drive it.
Right,
No.
so I think it would be great if we could figure something out and
generalization.
organize it so that we could do that, you know, have maybe 4 of us there on some day for an hour or 2 and help them through it.
Sure. That's, I don't know, why not?
Sunday afternoon.
Closed.
Oh,
It's only open weekdays.
Fiona, did you want to show everybody the rest of the board?
Sure, yeah, so I'll just quickly read off the questions here. Give me one moment. Zoom in.
Thank you.
So the station 2, the questions shift slightly. What is your least favorite things about Walpole? What are your least favorite things about Walpole? What are some things you feel need to change to improve the quality of life in Walpole? What are some challenges faced by Walpole that you feel need to be addressed? So that has the same format. This can all be shifted to the committee and staff's liking. I just, for purposes of having a draft board ready for this meeting, this is how I set this up.
Yeah.
But those questions that is going to be the line of questioning that we stick to when I was talking to Daphne about the setup. So station 3, we kind of focus on what's missing in Walpole, why, and what have you seen elsewhere that would be good for Walpole. Just trying to get some more feedback and pose some different line of questioning here. Station 4, we focus on opportunities and how we can take advantage of these opportunities, challenges, and how we should address the stated challenges. So the idea is to have the person, put one sticky notes in each box. So they'll be they'll pose an opportunity and then a suggestion on how to take advantage of that.
Or a challenge.
And
how to
then-
address it.
Right.
Yep.
And then from there, we just have, I gave some folks ideas just based on the topic, the elements for the master plan. So, transportation, land use, housing, et cetera, just to get them kind of thinking about what to talk about. Station 5, and if you could do one thing to improve Walpole, what would it be? Oh, sorry, this is my fault.
That's okay.
One thing to improve and why. So basically the same as station 3. And then lastly, is there anything else that you would like to share? Just a standard board people can add as they please. Hopefully they'll all say, great meeting. I love Miro.
Yeah. So one of the
And
things.
that's it. That's all I have for now.
That's great, Fiona, thank you. So one of the things that happens in a face-to-face meeting is that when people go up to a wall where there's questions and they put Post-it notes up, the facilitators of the meeting will go and look at all the notes and sometimes reorganize them so that things that actually belong under a particular category are there. Well, we can do the same thing with this. If people are actually answering kind of a question that really is on another board, we can kind of move things around. So it's a very helpful tool that way. It's a lot like being in a meeting, but you're in it virtually. So people have enjoyed it. We're certainly happy to try to make it as accessible to people as we can. And it'll be interesting to see how many people actually use it. And whether their comments. I'm sorry, Fiona, go ahead.
Sorry, Judy, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm more than happy to kind of create basic instructions for how to engage with the Miro board for folks. I mean, it's, I can include them obviously in the physical board here, but also just do a PDF with screenshots and arrows, just kind of standard outline on a Miro 101. That's fine.
We've done that with like PowerPoint slides too, Fiona, that we made into a PDF.
Yeah, right, when we've used Padlet or a similar kind of engagement tool, it's no problem.
Super.
Can I make one look? Can we go to the 4 with the SWOT analysis?
Yeah.
Can we, sorry if this is super nitpicky, but where it says think, do you mean like such as, or is that like a direction? Sorry, it's in the yellow.
Oh, it's in the yellow.
Yeah, at the bottom.
Oh, the bottom. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I'm sorry, can you say your question one more time for me?
Is think like a prompt, like for example, or are you telling people
Yeah.
to think about those things?
Yeah, I think probably that's a good point. I should change that. For example, it's
Sorry,
better.
it's just
Yeah,
maybe-
just kind of getting there.
And then could we add public health?
Can't reread it.
Sure.
I can't see it, so.
You cannot?
No, it has nothing to do with you, you're fine.
It's a me issue.
Fine,
Don't worry.
it's fine, Fiona, don't worry about it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
I can see it without glasses.
Okay. So we'll see how it goes.
The dice.
And if a lot of the results are kind of similar to what we hear in the community meeting, I wouldn't be too worried about whether somebody from outside of town participated. I think the issue is how different will the responses be, and what do we make of those? But that's where it gets fun to kind of try to analyze what's going on, so.
Is it easy for the output to come out? You just run a report and it collects all the text and puts it
Yeah.
into lists? Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really cool. Really cool. These things are wonderful. It's just great.
Thank you, Fiona. Judy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So those plans are in place for the meeting, the follow-up online. I would say if folks are aware of like dates and times for other events going on, maybe you could feed those to
Yeah,
that, and we can be thinking about what perhaps could we interface with somewhere along the way. And, I mean, we can't be at everything, but it might also be helpful to everybody if we all had like one common calendar of what's happening in the community. We can see what we can do in terms of, just kind of outreach, keeping the master plan kind of alive in people's minds and so forth, but.
yeah, awareness, interaction with the online map, anything like that, just to try to get feedback.
Right,
It's great.
right. Sounds good. So those are my issues for,
Yeah, no, I got a few things. I mean, obviously, I'll
Yeah.
follow up with everybody, regarding the volunteer positions. I'm gonna follow up with school on some email listings and make sure we have everything like that put together, for advertisement. The mirror walkthrough, so I mean, it's another thing that, Ashley brought up. I don't know if we wanna kind of get that kind of planned out as well as maybe having, I can talk to the, the library director and, council on aging director about trying to find a couple days
okay.
to have that as an additional option.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea if
Yeah.
it's possible. I would say for that,
Yep.
connect direct with Fiona, and
Fiona.
don't let me be a bottleneck,
Okay,
which I can
yep.
tend to be very easily, so I'd
Alright.
like to do that.
I'll talk to Fiona on that.
And Pat, if you need help with the
Okay,
library,
yeah.
I can help on that with
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sal. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Food is settled. I'll go back to something simple.
Sounds fine.
So that sounds good. Other than that, do we have anything else on the agenda we need to get covered immediately for tonight?
Can I
Organization.
just, before we do that, can I give a plug? Because and Pat knows, I reached out to the high school, and they have stood on their heads to help us. So a shout out to Sandy Allison and Kate Engels in the art department. We needed a logo, and we have no budget. So I reached out, and they jumped on it immediately, and they're thrilled to have a real-life client for the kids to work with. So the Design 2 class is going to have it built into their curriculum as a grade, and we're going to have 14 to choose from.
It's just so awesome. It's
Yeah.
just so awesome.
And they asked me to go in tomorrow, either do Zoom or go in just for quickly, so that the kids have a real-life client that they're speaking with, and all I am going to do is tell them what a master plan is, and, they're going to see if they have any questions. And basically, the art teacher is going to run with it and advise them, and then she said she'd like to give us samples, so I think we'll have 2 times to review them. And I just thought it was fantastic.
It is fantastic.
And it was both of them, they were both so eager, they've been a pleasure to deal with. And then, same with Miss Mack, the student council advisor, she reached out, I had casually sent an email after our first meeting asking for help, and she reached out last week and said, what do you need, what time, just give me the details and they'll be there. So they have been so great, and I just wanted to pass that on to everyone.
I think that's super.
I do too.
Do we know when we'll have them?
No, I'll find out tomorrow. So
Okay.
does anyone have any questions they want me to ask? So I told them we needed them before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we'll have samples well before that, but we won't have a meeting based on our schedule, so I figured we could, send around through the Dropbox and we can
Yeah.
all see it.
I was just gonna ask, are they hand sketching them, or is this like a digital?
I believe it's digital, but I'll find out.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
And if anyone thinks of a question tonight, I'm not going in tomorrow till 1, so if you shoot me an email, if you think of a question, I'm glad to bring it forward.
Well, something that I think would be very helpful to them, because we've been through this before with logos, is just, typically, the designer will say, so what kind of images come to mind? Like, what are the things that you think of, that if you wanted to try to convey Walpole, what comes to mind? And they might benefit from that.
So I did tell them, I wish I had, so I did tell them that they all live here, obviously,
Yeah.
go to school here, so they know the community. But we Googled, and of course I won't be able to come up with it now, we Googled, logos that have been used around our area.
Oh, yeah, yeah, good idea.
And there were a few of those just for samples for them, so they could see what's been done in the past.
Yeah,
I can't quickly get
that's
them,
okay,
but,
that's fine.
too many pictures on my phone.
Yeah, I know, we're all on that boat.
But, I just think it's gonna, this is what it was. So,
Yeah,
That's awesome.
just some local ones, Medfield,
So, I have a comment. I think it's important to make sure that they understand where and how the logo's going to be used.
yes, that was a
So
question
that's-
they had,
Okay.
so, yeah.
So-
That was,
And
it's
maybe
gonna appear on
colors.
anything, huh?
If we have Walpole colors, I mean, it would be an obvious thing to some.
Yeah.
I think the fact that there's 14 is great,
Yeah.
because they're all gonna think differently, so we should get good variety.
Yeah. Document, it'll be on the webpage, it'll be anything that's promotional about the master plan, so people come to recognize it as the master plan event. I mean, it'd be great if we had it for next week, but we don't, so, we do without, and we'll just have it, and it'll be fun, but I think it's a great idea,
That's awesome.
yeah. And frankly, I'd much rather have something organically done by kids than, most of those were professionally done, I actually know several of those plans. We've had towns, pay to hire a logo artist or something, and that's always kind of nice, but to have students and the community actually sort of projecting what they see about their town, I think is just fabulous. Yeah,
So with the 14 that we're getting, have we talked about how those are gonna be presented to us? Could we make that a community meeting where they get to share their logo and why?
that's up to you guys.
I don't know.
I like that idea.
It might be logistically easier
With
to
everything Ashley says.
create a video of that.
Yeah.
Because then anybody can watch it at any time.
Yeah.
And it's not
Cool.
tied to time and, like, the kids are still, it's still publicly facing and widely available, but doesn't require any event planning.
And this might be, and those here who have kids at the high school, this might be me being, I don't know what the word is, super cautious, but I was hoping they'd come in anonymous initially, and then later find out who they are, because, I know at least one child in the class, and I don't want to have a bias when I choose.
It's a good
Yeah.
point.
So I thought they should come in anonymously so that we all see them as the logo, and we can judge them that way and not, attach anything to it. And then afterward, we could maybe invite them in or something and thank them all, or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever we decide.
Cool.
Are we gonna just have the committee decide on the logo, or do we wanna make that more broad? Or
Usually
is
it's the
that just-
committee.
Okay.
And I
just wanna be
think,
sure.
frankly, we need it.
Yep.
Really, this plan's gonna be.
Yep.
It's already been going on for a couple of months, so I think the committee, that's typically how it's done, the committee picks the logo.
Sounds
So
good.
at our December 28th meeting?
Yeah.
If they're ready by then?
I think they'll be ready before that.
Yeah, but we
So,
can circulate
yeah.
that, yeah.
Great.
Could just have another Google vote,
There you go.
you know.
Yeah.
You
just
show them
a-
that way?
Form.
Keep
One
it
of
simple.
those, there,
Yep.
which one do you like?
We can put them in your, you
Yep.
know, your Dropbox
Can we use mirror
Um,
board for that?
that we have for you guys, and you'll be able to see them.
Okay, that's nice.
Also let them know you need a print and a
D-
digital, whatever. but
DWG
one- yeah,
file.
yeah. Two different images.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you think of anything, just email me.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that, that's
It
really
was
great.
really a pleasure, really, they made it great.
Does anybody have any concerns about next week's meeting that we should know about?
Are we gonna have any COVID protocols?
Pardon me?
Are we gonna have any COVID
Well,
protocols?
what's happening in the community now around that? I don't know.
There's
Looking at
nothing in place currently, other than,
Well, at the school, you have to wear masks, I think.
Huh?
You have to wear masks at all schools, at all times. Am I wrong?
is that just with the session?
I haven't been in a school where I haven't had to wear a mask.
I think they all wear masks.
You have to wear masks at all schools, so everybody's gonna have to wear a mask because it's at the high school.
Yeah, we should probably confirm that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I think we
I'll
need to
confirm
find out.
that, or-
I'll email Kathy Garvin and Melissa Ranieri and
Certainly at the
confirm.
elementary schools, maybe the high school's different.
If you could find out, that
I
would be
mean, they're
great.
required for everyone during school hours, whether
Yeah.
you're student, staff, or visitor.
But when I
just
drop my
don't
kids
know
off for
about-
basketball at 7 o'clock, I'm supposed to wear a mask. when I go
Okay,
in.
so let me confirm that.
Yeah, confirm it, obviously.
Just so we can let people know. If they require masks, you know, and you have any concern about whether people will be prepared, I can always pick up a package of,
Yeah.
a box of masks
Have it
and
at the
just have
registration
them.
desk. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just to not put anybody in a bad spot.
Yep.
It's fine. Okay,
So do you want to do the organization?
yeah, I think that's, yeah, actually, we got through this in an hour and a half, it's wonderful.
We need to elect a chair and a vice chair and a clerk.
Yeah, so that's really, how you guys organize is entirely up to you. I'm hands-off on this, I just want to know how you're gonna organize, and you decide and you go for it.
So I'll go first. I had proposed this to Phil, and I don't know that he's agreeable to it, but I thought because we were the two planning board representatives, and the planning board is charged with sort of overseeing indirectly the master plan, that he and I would chair and vice chair or co-chair or whatever, you know, was appropriate. Historically in Walpole, that's always the way it's been, and our master plans have been very successful. Phil and I don't approach things the same way, but we work well together. We can agree to disagree, and I believe he's on a different wavelength than me with thinking about the structure, but that's what I thought would work well.
Yeah,
Are you presenting that like a motion?
Well, I think
do that?
it's up for
Well,
discussion.
what does
I
Phil
don't, I
think?
don't
I
wanna
guess I
just
wanna
say
hear from
that's
Phil,
what I
yeah.
think, and that's that.
Oh, yeah, I'm open to that. Chair and vice chair, or,
yeah, Katie, you were on the original, you were on the last committee, weren't you? Yeah, you're the only one that has that
And I have to
longevity.
say, I don't mean to belittle it, but I don't think the chair and vice chair's responsibility is, you know, we're not quote-unquote leading you in what you think. Do you know what I mean? We're here to, I look at it as we're here to get our hands dirty and, you know, do the meetings before the meetings to make sure the agenda's set and what we're gonna talk about and things like that. But I see this as a group effort. So, I think it's more of a, I don't wanna say formality, but you know, we have met with Judy and Pat remotely before each meeting, and I think it's worked well. I also think, and not to put any negativity on this whatsoever, but, you know, there's always people, the peanut gallery, who thinks, you know, things are biased or things are stacked or whatever it may be. And I think because Phil and I come from different views, it might be good that way too, because it sort of puts a kibosh on that and says, you know, everybody's represented. So, that's all. That's just how I was thinking. Go ahead.
I think it's a great idea to have you two as the chair and vice chair of this committee, being the planning board representatives, and the statutory thrust behind that for this master plan committee. I do believe it's more than a little more than a formality, even though we all have our different viewpoints. It's 13 of us. You know, I'm a member of the finance committee. That's 15 people, right? You do need a chair, not just for logistical reasons to work with the consultant, but to Judy's point earlier, you know, you don't want this process to come off as seeming or as a consultant-driven process. You want it to come from the town. And so I'm totally on board with the two of you being the chair and vice chair. I do think it makes sense to have a chair and just have some decisive leadership rather than like a co-chair kind of situation. Sometimes you just need to make a decision and move. And then for all those reasons, I would nominate Phil to be the chair. I mean, I've seen Phil's work on the housing partnership, on the planning board, his work as a town meeting member for many years, bringing forth issues, not just on housing, but conservation and climate change. And, but I think we'll be in great hands with both of these planning board leaders. So that would be my motion, is to nominate Phil as chair.
Yeah,
And then
and
Katie's
I would
vice chair.
second that.
And
I
Katie's
have no
vice chair.
problem with Phil being chair at all.
And I'm pleased to be with you on this, Katie, on that,
I am too.
so.
But then should we also, should we vote on that motion, and then we'll do a motion to have Katie be the vice chair? Or can we put them in the same motion? I'm always the worst when
You
it
could do
comes to
the same
like.
motion.
I'll
You could do the same
nominate
motion.
Katie to be chairman, and then we can vote and see who's gonna do what.
What's your reason for not wanting co-chairs?
I think sometimes you just need action and decisiveness in terms of logistics and managing things. No other town committee has a co-chair system. Every other town committee has a chair, so that's my reasoning.
I agree, yeah.
And I've advised a lot of nonprofit boards, and I always tell them, don't have co-chairs. Like, you have to just, it's like, if Phil's not available, Katie can fill in and step in that position, but it leads to too much trouble if you try to have co-chairs.
Disney tried to have two CEOs in the 1990s, and it did not work.
Well, Food Pantry has
I do want to
co-chairs.
say that, as Katie mentioned, we have been meeting with Judy and with Patrick, and I would see that continuing, the four of us meeting, planning things out, and that, you know, what we've been doing all along, and certainly Katie's done a lot of things, you know, working with the high school with a number of places, so.
Sounds like some agreement. Does anyone else have any interest in the position?
Andrew moved for Phil to be chair, Katie seconded, so I think we're in a place where we can take a vote, right?
Okay, so all those in favor of Phil and Katie as chair and vice chair, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No, I mean, I did not mean to say no. It just came out, I don't know.
Now, we also need a clerk. You know, so I know Patrick has been acting as that. Are you good doing that, Patrick?
Yeah, I think for this type of
Yeah, I
board.
just want to make sure
It's fine. me just
formally,
taking
because that's
care
a,
of it.
yeah.
So moved.
Need to vote?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I want to thank you for your confidence in me, and as I said, I think Katie, I've been working together on the planning board for almost 3 years now, and you know, we work together very well. I think obviously we do have different opinions and things, but that's part of the process, so coming to hopefully good decisions and good thinking going forward. So, you know, certainly this committee is one of the most important things happening right now in Walpole, in regard to the impact it may have, even though you know, we're looking for input from everyone. You know, the other part of the process is coming up with the recommendations, which is a very important part of this, that putting, you know, what are actionable plans. So if you haven't read the chapter 41,
Section 81D.
Section 81, it's worth reading, because it mentions there are nine elements to what is required in a master plan, and it's worth reading through that list. I can send you a link to that if you.
Oh, yes.
But bear in mind that your town also added some.
Yes,
too.
that's right.
Yeah, which is,
And-
that's
and-
kind
and
of
you can
happening
do-
now.
And you can add to that as well.
Oh,
but
yeah.
those are the,
And you did, and a lot of towns are now. You know, it's
And
pretty,
the-
becoming pretty common to have a sustainability piece and so forth. I mean, it's just the way it is.
and,
so.
and the preface to that is talking about an interactive process to get input from the town, you know, so the whole gist of this is to really get input from the entire community. And then it goes through the seven topics, elements, and then the last one is implementation. And it's worth reading the details of what that means, because it talks about, you know, cost, has to be actionable. It talks about, you know, what changes you might need to make to your zoning bylaws, to other policies and procedures that may make this all happen. Now, again, we have no power to do any of these things, but what we're doing is setting a framework to allow other boards, allow the town to make decisions over the next 10, 20 years, and that framework is very important. The town is not making things piecemeal without taking account of what, you know, how things will fit together. And when you start talking about the long-range need for new buildings, you know, as we've just gone through the, you know, for the, you know, the senior center, the police station, fire station, the library before that, and now the middle school, you know, those are decisions that need to be made very carefully, because, you know, it doesn't require borrowing, and you wanna make sure we're doing the right buildings at the right time. But again, input from the community is upmost first, so that we respond to those plans, reflect how people see our vision of Walpole, so.
You'll send us those links?
Yes, yeah, and I'll also send you, there's a really good presentation, that I have, I talked to Judy about, I'll send you a link to that too. It was one of the presentations done by the collaborative.
Citizen Planner Training Collaborative, we wrote that. I was just gonna say, if it's any help, we could do that some night for you
Yeah,
folks.
I
We
think
do it
it's worthwhile.
remotely, but,
I think it's worthwhile, because I think everybody kind of knows, you know, master plan, but when you really need to know what it really is, both from you know, the stature, what's required by our zoning bylaws, and really getting down to the details, so. And if we know it well, then we're able to convey that as we talk to people. That's the.
would that be helpful to all of you if we just did that some night, and just said,
Sure.
we'll run the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative. We'll do that training for you on kind of, it's called Planning with Community Support, Creating a Master Plan. We'd be happy to do that. I mean, I can't come here to do it, but we could do it remotely.
Yeah, so the seven elements
I
that
don't know
the
if
town has to
somebody will
do
be doing it. Somebody's doing it.
is land use, housing, economic development, natural space and recreation, services and facilities, circulation, and then, as I said, the last one is implementation. So circulation is traffic, is transportation. And then there are some other ones that can be added, which, you know, some, as you said, are in our bylaws, but there's others that, there's a long list in that presentation. And those are the ones you want to add based on what we're hearing people talk about. You know, that's and at some point, we may want to assign people in our committee to some of those areas.
Yes.
So if each one of us comes in with an interest in it, or from a committee that maybe is focused on one or more of those areas. So as we divvy up the work, it would behoove us to have people assigned to, you know, take some leadership in each of those areas. And that may also help in some of the, you know, some of the meetings we have. But also that gets us more engaged earlier as committee members, so that we're starting to really think about things, and also bringing our expertise to this meeting, which I think is very important.
So you're way ahead of me, which is great. Like, I always love this, but we were actually thinking that on the 28th of December, when we see all of you again, that we would start to sort of talk about that.
So of those,
Assigning.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry, just getting people to say, well, I want to do open space, or I want to do public facilities, or whatever, and basically have like team captains or co-captains for, and I think a co-captain structure for that makes sense.
So
but-
we can set out a list of what those areas are. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we would do all of them, because some can be consolidated, but it's the seven from the stature, and then from the other ones that we want to add, and then a list of other things that other towns have done, and you could
So,
help on that.
Phil, what
too.
we've done internally is we took what the RFP said about the 81D elements and the additional ones, and we've tried to organize them into chapters for the master plan in a way that we could avoid duplication. So it might make sense to have like team captains for, related to those chapter divisions, which will make sense to you when you see it, because some of this content does kind of overlap, and it just makes sense to try to consolidate some of it. So we've done that already. We've actually got everybody on our team assigned to particular sections of the plan. So I was kind of hoping in December we could say, all right, we need to have team captains for these different ones, and then when we start rolling out, inventory and assessment documents that need to be reviewed, a team captain might take responsibility for, we're gonna run with housing, we're gonna run with economic development or whatever. Everybody gets to read them all, but the team captains are sort of the deep reading people.
And we could do it maybe one of our meetings with the four of us, going through that
Yeah.
list. So sustainability is a big one today, for
Right.
obvious reasons. So again, those are, looking out.
Fiona's
things
love.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, everybody. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
Update.